College, the good old days. Hi everyone, I'm Alexis. I am 22, I live in Brooklyn, and I work full-time in big tech, and I am also a content creator focused on all things realistic fashion, finances, and career here in New York City. So if any of that interests you, please make sure to like and subscribe, and follow me on Instagram and TikTok for more of the same content. Today, we're talking about the 7 things that you need to know in your first year post-grad. I graduated from Northwestern University exactly almost a year ago, and I want to tell you what to expect. Obviously, I graduated into a pandemic, so it was a very different experience. However, I do think a lot of these things ring true as the world is constantly changing, so I wanted to give you the tea on what it's like your first year post-grad. So here are the 7 things that I wish I knew. The first one is everybody hates their job post-grad. It doesn't matter who got the best job, who was bragging about it, who was obsessed with their job, all of that shit, absolutely not. Nobody is going to feel 100% confident their first year out of school in a big company. I'm sorry, but it's not real. I talk to my friends daily from all walks of life. We all have our struggles as we've entered the corporate or nonprofit or whatever world. We all feel imposter syndrome. No matter where we work, you could work at like the most impressive job post-grad and it's still a struggle. And so I think that there's this huge misconception while we were in school that once we graduated, we would get a job and everything would be completely fine and we would be super happy and you can close your laptop at 5 and go hang out and get happy hour with your friends. It's not like that for everybody. And it's a very big adjustment, especially if you came from a marginalized background and don't know how to interact with people in the same way that you're expected to in a corporate setting. So the best thing you can do is not be scared by this, but rather adjust your expectations and don't think that your job is going to fulfill you and make you super happy and all this stuff. Think of your job as a learning experience and don't assign your self-worth to your job. I think a lot of us assigned our self-worth to how well we did in school, and you can't do that with a job because you will ultimately be left disappointed because this job, you are replaceable. You are replaceable. There's no reason that this job loves you the most if everybody would do anything for you. Anyone could come in and take your job the next day. So do not treat this job as if it is your main source of happiness and serotonin, okay? It's not. Therefore, you need to adjust your expectations and think a little bit more about what you want long term and what you can get out of this job and what you can give to this job. You don't owe them anything except for hard work, and you are going to give that to them. You're going to get your skills, you're going to get your check, you're going to get your resume builder, and then you're going to move on to building your own life. So it's important to do a lot of self-reflection. Think about what you want long-term, and then you can build up to whatever that is through the resources that are at your job, because at the end of the day, there's got to be something. Fulfillment can only come from within. Don't expect it to come from your first job post-grad. 2, you don't have to pretend anymore. A horrible thing about college is that you have to be around this group of people that you might have accidentally picked freshman year, and after 4 years, you evolve. So you sometimes have to be in these situations where you're pretending. Even if it's not your close friends you're pretending with, sometimes you go to parties and have to hang out with people you just don't really like. And the best thing about post-grad is that you don't have to act like you like anybody. You don't want to be friends with somebody, graduation is a great time to cut them off. If you don't want to be associated with something, graduation is a great time to leave that behind. Post-grad is a great time to put yourself first and to focus on what you enjoy talking about, what you enjoy doing, expanding your horizons, learning more about yourself as opposed to fitting in so that other people can feel more comfortable. This is about you. This is going to be a journey. Your 20s are yours. They are a time where you really want to be building up your life so that you can have what you want long term. And I don't think under any circumstances that you should be pretending or not feel 100% confident around the people that you spend your time with, because otherwise, what is the point of life if you're pretending all the time? The third thing is that you can make new friends. I think there's this weird idea in college that this is the group of friends that you're going to have for the rest of your life. Therefore, you have to find them now. And not everybody finds their Sex and the City friend group in college. I mean, hell, Sex and the City didn't even find each other in college. So it's very important to remember, like, this is not the end of your social circle. I've made tons and tons of friends out of just in the past year from the pandemic, whether from roommates, from mutual connections, from people who you might just meet at work. It's totally possible to make new friends and meet new people after graduating. And I think that if you're very focused on being friends with just the people you met in college, you are setting yourself up for a very lackluster social life because you hung out with them for 4 years. I'm not saying leave them all behind. Please don't do that. You hang out with your college friends a ton. I do that all the time. But don't think that this is the end all be all. You can make new friends, you can find your people, you can find your person, and the same goes for dating. I met my boyfriend in college, which is wonderful, but not everybody does. So it's very possible to find your person post-grad, and it's very possible to find your friends post-grad. 4 is it's expensive as hell. So if you're like me and this is your first time managing your own finances, it can be a big jump to figure out what you need to do to be financially stable. Do I invest in my 401k? What is a Roth IRA? What about going out and getting drinks with friends? What if you want to go to brunch every weekend? If you live in a big city like New York, you're going to have to budget. And it's very difficult to do because you want to be able to spend all this time and meet all of these people. And yes, you could probably bounce back from financial turmoil when you're in your early 20s. However, if you want to set yourself up for long-term success, you need to budget properly. And that means investing in retirement. It means automating your finances so you don't have to think about them. It means giving yourself a budget of how much you can spend every week. For some of us, it means deleting Grubhub from our phones. Speaking of that, the biggest thing that you will need to learn in this first year is the art of prioritization. So in college, there was a lot more free time. There was a lot more opportunities to switch things around. But when you're in your first year post-grad, you really need to figure out what matters to you. And a great framework I learned from doing this is, I can't remember where I learned it from, but it's the idea of multiplying time. So there is typically when people think about time management and they think about a level of importance and a level of urgency. So whatever needs to get done right now. So say you have a deadline, but you also wanted to read this book. So you have a deadline at work, you're going to focus on the deadline at work, even though reading the book might be more important to you, right? But there's actually a third axis here, which is called significance. So what's going to bring you more time in the future is another level that you want to think about when you're making decisions on a daily basis. For example, doing really well at work right now would give you more time and more money in the future. Therefore, that's the big reason that you need to stay and work on your deadline. But it could also mean that reading this book and getting this knowledge and getting this information might actually help you build your own business. Therefore, you're able to get more and more time in the future. So prioritizing those things gonna look different for everybody. What's most significant in your life is your life. It's not mine, it's not anybody else's. For example, I'm filming this at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday. I have work today, but it was important for me because building something like my side business, brand, influencer world, it was gonna be really important to me. Therefore, I'm gonna prioritize it over going on a run this morning. I was never gonna go on a run, I don't do that shit. But prioritizing it over working out, which, yes, you should prioritize your health, but whatever. Prioritization is very, very important. I've had to learn this a lot. So I prioritize building my brand over like getting the best possible performance reviews at work because I know that this is a long-term solution and a long-term goal for me, and being at my company could be a long-term goal for me, absolutely, but right now this is what I want to focus on. So if you're used to being A+, you are not going to be the A+ worker at your corporate job if you have a side hustle. I learned this from Reshma Shaljani, who's the CEO of Girls Who Code, who is huge in big law. I interviewed her recently, and she said that you have to let go of the idea that you're going to be the number one person at your job if you have something that you're more passionate about outside of work, which goes back to my first point. Don't put your fulfillment all there. But that's where prioritization comes in, because when you get to your performance review, you're not getting promoted earlier than everybody else. You can't be mad at yourself because you know that you put your time somewhere else where it mattered more to you. The 6th is once you accept that you are cringe, or in other words, you are not going to please everybody, that's when you will be happy with where you are. So I found myself always worried about what other people thought of me, or like my influencer stuff. I knew people were judging me for that. And once I accepted that, like, I'm gonna be cringe to some people, they're gonna talk shit, they're gonna think I'm crazy, whatever, then you move on. And guess what? Your life gets a lot better when you're surrounding yourself with people that actually support you and you're focused on things that actually make you happy, because what's never going to make you happy is what some random girl thinks of you in the middle of your school that you never want to talk to again, okay? Once you accept your cringe, whether that's because you play video games and are obsessed with it, or because you want to be an influencer, or because you love knitting, whatever it is, accept that you're cringe and move on. And 7, you have time. This is something I have to remind myself all the time because I always feel like I'm running out of time, but in reality, life is long as well as it is short. It's important to be gentle with yourself and remind yourself that this is not the end of the world. This is just the first year of a transition. And if you survived it, that's amazing. And I hope a lot of these tips really helped you do so. But don't forget that this is not the end of the world. Whatever happens here will probably not matter in 10 years. But it is important to have some sense of what you want out of your life. And if you do want that, I highly recommend the book, The Defining Decade, because if you're not trying to figure out what you want in your 20s, then your 30s might just be a creation of something that you never really thought of. Although, honestly, right now, I don't know what I want long term. Only thing I can think of is like financial stability, but career-wise, I have no idea what I want. I mean, 10 years ago, the career that I'm in didn't exist. So be flexible, be gentle with yourself, read The Defining Decade, and I will teach you to be rich. And I think you'll have an incredible first year post-grad. If you liked this, please make sure to like and subscribe. It means the world to me. Follow me on Instagram for a peek into my daily life as a Googler and content creator, and follow me on TikTok for more tips like this in realistic fashion and finances in New York City. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget that you are too smart to not love yourself.